Hey, welcome back to Prepping with Sarge. So inflation is on the rise and grocery costs are already up 7% this year. It's going to become even more important for anyone who wants to be food independent, food self-sufficient, anyone who wants to have some relief from the anxiety about the supply chain or just, cut your grocery costs, to learn how to grow some vegetables and to learn how to make the most out of the vegetables that you grow. Now, Sarge has a list of vegetables that I recommend for all preppers and homesteaders to grow. I will link that one at the very end, but potato is actually one of the ones that if you're going to be a prepper, if you're going to be somebody who's a homesteader, if you're going to become more food independent, you're going to want to know how to grow potatoes. There are some other methods of growing potatoes, but today we're gonna talk specifically about the potato trench method. It's gonna be a good video. Stay with me now. Back to the garden. Today we're going to show you how to do the potato trench method. Now there are other ways to do this, of course. I'm also very fond of the container method where you're building up soil as you go, but let's talk about this one for today. If you're brand new to the channel, please don't forget to subscribe. We'd love to have you join us. I drop videos at least twice a week, always topics related to preparedness, financial preparedness, self-sufficiency, food self-sufficiency, gardening, permaculture, all kinds of things like that. And in fact, I have a whole gardening playlist you can check out. I will try to link that in the description below. And if you're into preparedness, please stay till after the gardening segment here. We'll talk about why potatoes are a good vegetable, a good crop for you to grow if you're a prepper, if you're into a survivalist kind of situation, if you're a homesteader. It's one of those crops that keeps giving year after year, very, very low maintenance, very, very low costs. And the potatoes that you grow this year will seed your crop for next year. Kind of like garlic in the same regard. So how do you do this method? Well, first thing you're going to do is you're going to dig a trench into the area where you want to plant. And you're going to take your seed potatoes. Now you can cut those up if you have more than one eye growing off the potato. You can cut those up and split them up, but you're going to plant them right into the ground with that little eye shoot sticking up. So I've already done that. As you can see, these are my potatoes that I've got growing in this line right here. So the dirt that you've dug up out of your trench, you're just going to pile up off to the side here, right? And you may supplement if you want to add a little bit. If your soil's getting a little bit played out on nutrients, you can add a little bit more topsoil or gardening soil or whatever you like to use, just to kind of add some nutrients back into it. But as your plants start to emerge from that eye of that potato, that's when you're going to start to fill this back in little by little. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to start to take our trenched up soil over here, and I'm going to fill it in over the plants. Going to leave just a little bit of leaf exposed. And what that will do, I like to leave a little bit of leaf exposed so it catches the sunlight and kind of knows what to do, and it'll keep growing up. As these plants grow up, you keep filling it over and mounding over the top of the plant. And what will happen is the potatoes will grow out from underneath that in the ground, okay? So the more room you have to grow up vertically, potentially the more potatoes you will get growing out from underneath that plant. Let's go ahead and fill this in. As you can see, I leave up just a tiny bit of the top of the plant exposed, so it will continue to receive the benefits of the sunlight and extend out upwards to the sun. As these plants start to grow up, we will continue to mound up vertically like that. All right, I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you haven't already done so, please consider giving me a thumbs up. It really does help me out in the algorithm. If you are not subscribed, please consider subscribing. I drop videos a couple times a week and always talking about preparedness, food self-sufficiency, food independence, survivalism. I do a lot of videos out here in the woods talking about foraging for wild edibles and medicinal plants, so maybe you're interested in that as well. I do some urban homesteading also and other topics that I think anyone who enjoys growing their own food would also enjoy. So let's talk real quick before we wrap up this video. Why the potato, right? Well, if you are into any kind of food self-sufficiency and preparedness, you are going to need some carbs in your diet. Now, in my wilderness survival foraging videos, we talk about medicine that you can find in the woods. We talk about vitamins and minerals that you're going to find through certain plants. But carbohydrates are kind of hard to come by. You know, I can get protein from fish, I can get protein from small game or a deer, but carbohydrates are a little bit more tricky. In general, you're going to need some root crops for your carbohydrates. And if you don't have carbohydrates in your diet, you know, you might be okay for a while because your body's going to feed off of the stored fat, but eventually you are going to need them in order to sustain the level of energy that you would want to have in an SHTF situation. Potatoes is really one of the best ways to do this. It's super simple to grow potatoes. And as I mentioned in the middle part of the video, once you start growing potatoes, you know, you've kind of got your seed crop for the following year. It's much like some of the other crops that I talk about in my video where I talk about, you know, crops that preppers must grow. And again, I'm going to link that. In fact, I'll link it right up here. You can check that out. So what can you do with it? You know, there's a million different recipes that you can use, but basically the reason why we love it as a way to cut down food costs is because you know, maybe your grandmom or your grandma taught you, but you can expand your meal, right? You can get more. So let's say you only had a little bit of protein to work with. You know, you could turn that into a soup, but if you add some potatoes to it, which are super cheap, super easy to grow, you're going to get many more meals out of that, right? So using the carbs to expand, to get more out of a simple meal. One last point that I think preppers and homesteaders should take into account is that being a root vegetable, it is one of those things that stores really well. So depending on what the climate that you're living in, you may not be able to grow crops year round, right? And you're going to want to have that last harvest of the year, that fall harvest is going to have to last you several months. Well, potatoes is one of those ones that if you store them correctly, maybe you've got a root cellar or some other way to store them, you're going to be able to get several months out of them before they start to become problematic. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't already done so, again, please drop a thumbs up. Please comment down below. If you're using a different method, I would really love to hear about it. Tell me how you're growing your potatoes. Tell me what other carbohydrate-rich vegetables you're growing in your garden. And if you have any other gardening tips that you'd like to share with the community, please comment down below. All right? This is going to do it for today. Keep planting your seeds. Keep stacking your silver. This is Prepping with Sarge.